Yeah, so a couple of episodes ago, I did a podcast about my experience at the latest Metallica concert in Atlanta. And this dude got up with me and said, "Hey, I've been following them on tour. This is my 12th Metallica show this year. I've seen them 49 times," I think he said. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that people still did that. I heard about people following around the Grateful Dead on tour. I didn't know anybody did that for Metallica. So I wanted to ask him, like, why? How? So I got him on the podcast and I did just that. I asked him why, how, and then we talked about the differences of the shows in the various different cities, which was quite fascinating, plus general love for Metallica. So check it out, episode 224 of Heavy Metal Philosophy. Brian, welcome to Heavy Metal Philosophy.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you because I put out an episode recently about a Metallica concert that I went to, and you told me that you've been following them on this tour, and you've been to 12 shows on this tour.
Yep, 12 shows on M72 since the tour started.
Now, I can see from your office and your attire, you're obviously a big Metallica fan, and of course following them on tour for 12 shows goes without saying, but I have to ask, what made you want to follow them this year like that?
It really started a few years ago. I think on Death Magnetic tour, I decided out of the blue one day, I was making good money. I was managing bars downtown Nashville. I had adult money for like kind of the first time in my life. I was like, I'm going to follow the Metallica tour. I set like this goal. I'm going to hit 10 dates in a calendar year. And I'm going to go. And I did it. And it was awesome. Following the tour was freaking amazing. Like if you've never followed a tour and just done subsequent date after date, all this stuff, phasing in and out of the set list and, even seeing the band, how they changed over different shows. It's a great experience. So we did that on Death Magnetic. I did it again on Hardwired. So this is going to be the third album cycle in a row that I've, shot for the goal of 10 shows. Under the calendar year is not possible with the way they're touring now for me, because they're doing the dates are so much more intermittent than just jumping and just following a tour like I used to do. So, it's taken 3 years to get to 12 dates, but we got there. And that's just kind of the goal. And it's just, Metallica is a passion in my life. It's what I love. It's what I've always loved. Soundtrack of my life, big part of my life. Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer. That's literally the soundtrack of my life. I'm an 80s kid, so I came up on that stuff. And that's where it came from. Just this crazy idea of I get a lot of crazy ideas. And in this case, it was following the Metallica tour. And I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of crazy songs, a lot of crazy things I never would have got if I was just sticking to just the hometown shows. Just, they're coming around every 5 years to Nashville. Let's see them, So that's kind of where that started. Just a crazy idea. I had the means to do it. And I did it. And now I take my family. So it's 4 of us. So it's like even more expensive because every time I go, it's like family of 4 going to Metallica every time.
Wow. So it's even more impressive than I thought because you've done it 3 times, not just this tour.
Yeah, it's three different album cycles now. I've hit it. So, and I was trying on Madly in Anger with the World. I was kind of shooting for it then, but I think I only got to like maybe 5 shows on that. I hadn't really had the thought of doing 10. That was the first time I was like, let's follow the tour. So I did kind of the stops around us, but it's all good. It's a good life. Can't complain.
Hell yeah. I always heard stories about people like following the Grateful Dead and stuff like that, but I'd never heard of anybody doing it with metal before. So when you told me, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then you kind of already answered my next question because I was like, okay, that's awesome, but how? So I guess because you're a bar manager, that gives you the time and the freedom as far as your work schedule to do something like this.
Yes, and I left bars 10 years ago, retired 10 years ago. Wow. So I've been just done living life, following bands for at least, the last 10 years. 2015 exactly is when I left downtown Nashville, managed bars, better part 20 years down there. Very good living, very good money downtown Nashville. And now I just go to shows.
That's awesome. So are you still in Nashville?
Yeah, we're in the Nashville area, like right outside.
So your career decisions, and then also it seems like maybe that central location on the East Coast also makes it pretty convenient. You can go to Charlotte, Atlanta, Chicago. Like what all cities have you been to this time?
So this last tour, we started in St. Louis. That was the first tour the first show that was anywhere around us on M72. So we hit that at the Dome. was okay. Wasn't super great. It was another one of those crowds like Atlanta where nobody was into it. Everybody was just standing around, sitting on their hands. So that one was kind of like okay. Then the next year they came to Chicago to Soldier Field. We hit that. Excellent. They packed that thing. People standing, going crazy. Metallica vibe. It was just great show. So that was good. So that was the first 2 years, first two legs. That's all I got. And then this year is when it went kind of crazy. So I realized if I was going to hit my 10, I had to make it happen. So it's like, here we go. They came through. I think we did Nashville first, then Columbus. There's 2 shows in Nashville, 2 shows in Columbus for Rock on the Range. Then we did flew to Charlotte. That was a one-off in Charlotte, one-off in Atlanta, and it finished it with 2 in Tampa.
So these are all like basically driving distance for you. You didn't have to fly for any of these?
Well, we flew to Charlotte, North Carolina. We could have driven there, but I went with my brother-in-law, and he's not trying to drive, much. It was his first Metallica show, so I got to let him experience that. So another thing is I take people. If I'm going to go to Metallica, I'm going to try to take everybody I can take. So if, you've never seen them and you know me, we're going to Metallica, and some people they see the ticket prices and they're like, oh, I'm not, not going to Metallica with you. Some of my friends won't go because of the ticket prices. I don't care. I just pony up, pay for it, and we do it. So it was just, this time it was just one flight, but previous, I think Death Magnetic was pretty flight heavy. We were flying around a lot on that. We flew to New Orleans, flew to 2 nights in a row in Madison Square Garden, which was pretty much the highlight. We flew to Chicago for 2 nights in a row on that. We were flying around a lot on that one.
And that adds a lot of expense flying people. And you said it's a family affair too, so it's more than one plane ticket.
Well, M72 is where it became a family affair. So it was just me and the wife before that. And now my kids are old enough to kind of appreciate it. I did take my daughter. Her first show was Orion in 2011 or 12, Atlantic City. We took her out for that, and we had snake pit tickets. We won through Met Club. Shout out to my Met Club people, by the way. Love Met Club. I'm on there all the time. Locust on Met Club. I win these contests like it's going out of water with Met Club. It's like I just almost don't enter them if I don't have it in my schedule to try to attend the show, because I win everything. S&M, we won for that. Metallica 30, we won for that. Metallica 40, we won for that. Every single thing, snake pits, I've met them, meet and greets, everything you can win, we've won it. And, we won again. We had snake pit again on one of these other shows. And it's, shout out to Met Club first and foremost. Love those guys, all my friends there. So the family thing didn't start till M72. We did take my daughter out to the Orion show. She was 6 years old, and the first show she ever saw started with Ghost. We got there at 1:00 in the afternoon to see Ghost, Sepultura, Volbeat, and Metallica. That was the lineup for her first ever show. Awesome. So she's 19 now and a metalhead, so it clearly stuck. And my son got his first Metallica show in St. Louis. That was his first one.
That's such a cool thing about Metallica, is you can share it with your family like that. I've seen them a bunch, and every time there's always a lot of families there. I've seen Cannibal Corpse a bunch. Not so many families I'm seeing at Cannibal Corpse.
For sure. That's a good show too, though. We just saw them at Sonic Temple, I think it was.
You saw S&M and Metallica 40?
Yeah, S&M 2, the second one. I didn't get to go to the first one. I won S&M 2. Won Metallica 30, Metallica 40. Just every time there's a big Metallica thing, I put in for it on Met Club, and it's like clockwork. I win. So,
man, that's awesome, because those are like significant milestone gigs.
oh yeah. The Met 30.
Don't get me wrong, the Atlanta show was fun for me, and for me, it's a memory. But in the historical context of Metallica, Atlanta 2025, it's not really a big deal. But those were like landmark shows.
Yeah, and they were great too. The Met 40 was amazing. Met 30 is probably my favorite Metallica experience. I was there when they brought Dave Mustaine out, and they did all of No Life to Leather with Dave, almost all of Kill 'Em All. They played the Four Horsemen like one of the other nights with John Bush, so that one wasn't on tap. But they ran through pretty much all of Kill 'Em All with Dave and Ron and the dogs whining. That's going to be a thing. Is that making it through?
It's not even making it through. It's all good.
All right, that's good. Okay. That was the best one. They had Ozzy on the same night. So they brought out Ozzy and Geezer, and then they ran through the Sabbath stuff. They had Jason out there. Then they brought out Dave for the big finale. And just seeing them, play with Dave, it was just like, man, for me, that was probably the coolest thing that we've done. And it was at the Fillmore in San Francisco, which is, very tiny club versus what they're normally doing, these giant stadiums we just saw. So seeing them in that atmosphere and the club atmosphere in San Francisco, that was, I don't know how you're going to beat that.
Yeah, that's an incredible memory,
It was a good one.
man. So, and stuff like that. That's why I always tell people, like, yeah, there's all these obstacles. Life always gets in the way. You've got work, you've got kids, ticket prices are hard. But if you can make it happen, you really need to go to these shows because you never know what's going to happen. So you brought up that Ozzy and Geezer were there. Like, I've never seen Black Sabbath,
Oh,
and
you never saw Sabbath?
no, and it looks like I'm never going to get to see them. I tried. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get tickets to back to the beginning. Couldn't do it. They were sold out immediately. And I, God, that's going to bother me forever. I had a chance to see them when I was a teenager, and like always, people say it, and I said it too. I was like, oh, I got to work. I can't afford it. I don't even remember what was going on in my life at that time that was causing me such a headache. I just know that I didn't see them when I had a chance, and now I probably won't get to have a chance.
Yeah. That's definitely, I look at it like life finds a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. If
Yeah.
Sabbath or Metallica is in town, I try to go. And really, this is kind of the genesis of all this crazy chasing the tour stuff. It goes back to Atlanta, actually. Because when I was a kid, I had like this crazy idea of seeing like all the songs on all the Metallica albums performed live. I was like probably 15 years old. I was a Black Album kid, came on the tail end of Justice. Black Album is when I really blew up on it. And I lived and died on the Binge and Purge box set. Like, I
Yeah.
wore those tapes
One
out.
of the best box sets ever.
Absolutely. It's my number one. I had this idea. I was like, oh man, one day I'm going to go to Metallica. I'm going to see all the songs live. I'm going to see everything. Because the first time I finally did see him on the Black Tour, they weren't playing some of the older stuff by that point. And I was like, eventually I'll get around to it. But it was just crazy idea in the back of my head. And then I really I was on Setlist FM, and there's a Insanity Metallica Palace, whatever, the IPOM, whatever that is. I'm on that. I don't know if you've ever seen that. You can log your Metallica shows. It tell you how many times you've seen all the songs and everything. I just got on that one like within the last few years, but I had this unrealistic goal of seeing all the Metallica songs off the first 5 albums performed live. So that's really kind of what started me chasing the set, because 2003 they started playing a bunch of old stuff again. So a bunch of stuff that had been out of the set for a long time. And it started actually at the Fillmore, I believe, in San Francisco. They added stuff like Ride the Lightning and Leper Messiah and all the stuff that had been out of the set for like 10, 15 years, all of a sudden was back in the set. So that Madly in Anger with the World Tour, they pulled out Dyer's Eve. They were doing all this crazy stuff. So that's what really started me traveling to hit these shows. I was hitting this instead of this. I'm doing Nashville. Now I'm doing Louisville. Now we're out in Atlanta in the mix. We're doing all this stuff. And I picked Louisville over Atlanta in 2004. And in 2004, they played Leper Messiah and I believe The Weight in Atlanta.
Wow.
And like I saw that after the fact, because like I'm literally set list, like it's on my brain. I look up shows I don't even go to. I see what they're playing all the time. And I saw that, they played that, and it bothered me because I didn't see Leper Messiah or The Weight in any of those other shows I went to. So as the years go on, I still never saw Leper Messiah. I closed out, seeing Ride the Lightning in its entirety at Orion when they played that. I closed, Black Album was the next night or whatever. So I'm doing that. And then I saw him do Kill 'Em All, just various places. I've seen all those songs a bunch of times. And it turned out Leper Messiah was like the last song I hadn't seen off Master of Puppets. And this is like 20 years. So this is really where it went crazy. From 2003, I was just kind of chasing Leper Messiah. So if you ever see the hashtag Chasing Leper on Instagram, that's me. I was going to shows to see Leper Messiah live. It's in the set list. They're rotating it. I missed it by one show like 5 times, where I went to the wrong show here, the wrong show there. So 20 years of this. It's 30-something shows of me actively trying to complete the loop of seeing Master of Puppets in its entirety. I guess I knocked Orion off in 2010 at Big Four. I went to Big Four Indio as well. And Met Club, I think, gave me Sonic. I won something from that. I was in some kind of Met Club VIP thing. I met Ray Burton there. Nice. It was real cool. Anyway, so it was like 20 years of chasing this song, and it just never happened. And then finally in Nashville, in the hometown show of all places, just like a month ago, they played Leper Messiah. I finally got it. So I closed the deal on seeing Master of Puppets. So it's a lot of obsession with this, of like just crazy ideas and obsessions. Like, who wants to think that they've seen every song off the first 5 Metallica albums performed live? Like, it's a crazy thing to try to achieve, but I'm trying to achieve it. And now I'm down to 3. I just need 3 songs, and I'll have seen the first 5 albums live in their entirety. And that's Eye of the Beholder, which again hasn't been played since 1989. So good luck getting that. Yeah. Then we got Freightens of Sanity, which has got another handful of plays. I don't even know if it even made it to the U.S. and To Live Is to Die, which I missed at the Fillmore because I was there for night 4, and they played that on like maybe night 2. So that's the Met 30. So that's the last 3 songs I need: Eye of the Beholder, Fragrance of Sanity, To Live Is to Die. And when I complete those 3, then I'll have seen the childhood dream of the first 5 Metallica albums. That's all existed when I had this idea in my head in their entirety live, there in person for every song from all 5 of them. It's ridiculous, but you got to live for something, right?
That's right. You got to live for something. It's and those 3 songs are on And Justice, which they famously don't like to play a lot of songs off of. So
yeah,
that's going to be tough. But it's also a blessing because that means a lot more shows are ahead of you.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm hoping here we get around to maybe 2028. We're looking at like a 40th anniversary Justice tour or something, or whatever anniversary it'll be that year at that point. It sounds terrible to say it's 40 if it's 40. Wow, I think it is going to be 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go anywhere on the planet. Like if they're playing on Mars, I'm trying to figure out how to get a ticket to Mars because that'll complete it. And, it's completely crazy goal to do that. But now I'm this close. I don't know. He said, you got to live for something. You got to care about something. And in my life, Metallica was always there for me. It was always what I loved. It always got me through everything. So, I don't know how to turn it off. I couldn't turn it off if I tried.
Yeah. So people that have listened to this podcast a bunch, they're going to say, here he goes again. But I'm always talking about free will versus determinism. And the thing that I always say that made up my mind is metal. Is because as soon as I heard One for the first time late at night on MTV, that was it. Metalhead. No choice. I didn't make a decision. I didn't pick this. It happened, and there was nothing that I could do about it.
That's pretty much the same thing happened with me. We got cable, cable came down my road in the late 80s, like 1989 or something. I went from having like 5 channels to having 25, which at the time, that was pretty awesome, right? Yeah. Got the Headbangers Ball. I remember the first video I saw on there on MTV in general was Aerosmith, Love in the Elevator. You go from watching like PBS to watching Love in the Elevator. It's like, oh, there's something going on with this here. What's this? Let's turn this MTV on a little bit, And I caught the one video on Headbangers Ball, and it was wild, like just honestly, that one didn't set the hooks immediately. I was like blown away by it, but I was still like blown away by the whole thing. It wasn't like everything wasn't Metallica. I was still looking at like, oh, what's this Megadeth and what's this, Anthrax over here. I was trying to take it all in really quickly. And then by, I guess, 1990 or so, or 91. So I remember I was already like really following Metallica and anticipating the Black Album dropping. And when those videos came out, like Enter Sandman and Unforgiven and Wherever I May Roam, all that stuff, I was done at that point. So, I'm, not afraid to admit Black Album is the one that hooked me. I wish I was older and could say I was there for Master of Puppets. I was like 7 years old, so I wasn't there for Master of Puppets. I never got to see Cliff. But yeah, Black Album got me, and I just never let go. Didn't have a choice. There's nothing.
Similar story for me. Like I wasn't old enough for Puppets or Ride the Lightning. And I grew up in the woods in Alabama. So even if I was, I probably wouldn't have gotten exposed to it. Like my dad was the rebellious one in the family because he listened to like Bad Company,
Yeah.
And I thought like AC/DC was like the heaviest, like unbelievable, like I got to hide this from my grandparents. So when I saw One as a little kid on MTV, I was just like blown away. It's like there's a whole other world out there. So One and Justice really got me. And then right after that, because like I think I saw that video a matter of months before the Black Album dropped, Mm-hmm. So I'm already in that mode. Like I got to get more of this, whatever this is. Like, yeah, I have to have this. And then they dropped the Black Album. I'm like, okay, there's more of this. And it wasn't until later that I was like, oh, they've got albums previous to this. I signed up for Columbia House, get your 14 CDs for like $1. I was like, oh, I'm getting every Metallica CD then. I didn't have any problem meeting my obligation. I think you had to buy like 7 CDs in a year. Like, no problem.
Yeah, I tore those up too. Columbia House, BMG, every time. CDs, I still owe them money for sure. It's good stuff. And the one video, it was, I think I wasn't like unnerved by it, but I was watching it and I was like, this is some like heavy stuff that I'm not ready for. I was like, I knew that it was like something beyond my perception at that point. It was like watching horror movies, watching the video, and there's just something about it was crazy. But at that time, it was all new to me. You know, I think I was like 10 years old at that point. So it was all crazy. It was all, just really, really just out there stuff for me to take in. Cause I grew up like my dad listened to Elvis and that's what I heard in my house. So you go from Elvis to like one, like it's mind blowing, what are you going to do at that point? So.
Yeah. I spent a lot of my childhood with my grandparents and it's just gospel church.
Yeah.
Elvis was like them. That's like them venturing out and being a somewhat secular, And then, like I said, my dad was like the wild child of the family, listening to, Aerosmith. And look, I say it like that, and it sounds like I'm besmirching them. I'm not. I respect Aerosmith. Joe Perry's one of my favorite guitar players. I'm just saying that's the jump that I made from, Dream On to it's like, oh, there is something so much heavier, and that just started me on that path.
And Dream On is a great song.
Yeah.
Aerosmith's good. That live version on the Last Action Hero soundtrack, I used to spin that one all the time. The one I think Michael is on it or whatever.
And I love AC/DC still, I'm not besmirching those bands. It's just there's a jump from rock and roll to metal.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. And it takes a lot to digest, especially when you're 10. You're still learning about the world and you get the one video dumped in your lap, in your formative years.
Right.
We didn't have a chance. People like us that came into it at that time, there's not a choice at that point. This is the world. This is how your world is now.
Yeah, that was the only thing that the church got right. Because I remember attending like special events with the kids and they talked about the dangers of rock and roll and, KISS stands for Knights in Satan's Service. And they said it only takes one time and it can get their claws in you. And I was like rolling my eyes, because my dad listened to rock and roll. So I didn't really think it was that big a deal. No, they were right. When I heard Metallica for the first time, it just grabbed me and that was it.
It's it. So the Atlanta show, because your video came up in my feed, jumping tracks back to this for a second. And I knew exactly what the video was going to be about when I saw the headline, when you were talking about how, Atlanta, I remember what exactly it was, basically Atlanta let you down or whatever, or however it was. I knew because it is exactly what it was like. I thought the exact same thing when I was there. That's why I watched the video. I was like, man, this dude, he understands. He's been there and seen it, and that's, I don't know why it's that way in the South. Nashville's like that a lot too. Atlanta's like that. And that partially is what got me traveling too. I wanted the real Metallica experience. I kept seeing all these crazy videos of like Chicago or New York City and like the crowd just being insane. I'd be here at a show in Nashville and it's like crickets, man. Everybody just standing here watching with their jaws agape. Like, what are we doing here? But that Atlanta show in particular, what was your experience there? You talked about it a lot, but now that it's kind of over and you processed it.
Yeah. I think part of it is also because I have seen them before. And let's see, it's 4 times. 3 of them were in Atlanta. And the first one was at Lakewood. And then the next one was in Florida in Pensacola, which is a city that they don't hit very often.
I've never seen them there.
Yeah. And that one was awesome. I was on the rail for that one. That's still to this day, my favorite concert experience. I've told this story before too. I remember being that little kid watching MTV, 7, 8 years old, Southern kid, and making fun of people because I'm watching like Michael Jackson concerts on TV and like, how people will faint when there's a pop star.
Yeah.
Girls fainting during the Beatles or during the Backstreet Boys or whatever, like whatever. Okay, I get it. But like dudes were fainting during Michael Jackson and being carried off like a baby by security. And I was making fun of him, like, look at that dude
falling out,
fainting because of Michael Jackson. So fast forward to that Pensacola show, and I'm hanging over the rail, and James comes right to where I'm at. There's probably 4 to 6 feet between us, and I'm like, oh shit, James. So I throw him the medal, and he looks down and he throws the medal back, and I just remember my legs got numb, like I couldn't feel my legs, and I just held onto the rail because I thought I was about to fall. I was like,
you understood.
And maybe 20 seconds later, I thought about me making fun of that guy fainting for Michael Jackson. And I was like, okay, I guess I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. It's like the Beatles mania girls,
Yep. So I had that experience. Like I said, Lakewood was great. And I saw them at Phillips Arena in 2009. That's where I discovered Gojira, also a great memory of mine.
I was there at that show.
And it was great, and I brought my friend to that one. Like you said, you bring your friends when you can. I brought my friend. It was his first Metallica concert. And he had a blast because, everybody did what you're supposed to do. And that's like part of the magic of a Metallica concert is like everybody knows, everybody starts to hey heys when it's time to hey hey. Everybody sings the ending of Memory Remains. Everybody sings the melody of Ecstasy of Gold when they come out. It's just like nobody tells you what to do, just everybody knows.
Everybody did it.
And it just happens, and it's this communal experience, and that didn't happen this time. And I
Yeah.
brought my wife to her first Metallica concert, and I didn't get to share with her that experience that I shared with my friends. So that was what was disappointing. Some people got it confused. They thought I was disappointed in Metallica. No, they did their job. Great
They
show.
did their part. Something is lost in translation in these stadiums. It was the same thing, said in St. Louis. We were there, and I think we were in the 300s in St. Louis because I just get in the door at this point. Like, I'm old. I've spent my time at the rail. I've done the pits, and now that I've got my family, I don't even try to get floor anymore. It happens sometimes. We win snake pit and we deal with it, and I'm just old. I want to sit down, have a nice view of the show. 100 level is best. Of all the shows I went to, the best seats we had was Nashville because we were dead. Like 100 level, 2 rows off the floor, like at the 50-yard line, like right exactly at the 50-yard line, right in the middle. It was the best sound, best video. I could see the stage, no obstruction from the towers, no matter where they were. Those are really the best seats on this tour. Because I'm honestly not a fan of this big giant stage. What'd you think about the stage?
I got mixed feelings about the stage, but it's the towers that I don't like, and it's specifically what you talked about. So I was in the 200 level, and it's just unlucky. There's 4 towers, and my section happened to have a tower in between me and the stage. So unless the band was moving around to the side, I couldn't really see them, and I was mostly watching a screen, which is on the one hand, it's cool because there's stuff on the screen that's cool, like when they would like do crazy shots where like Kirk is like multiples of himself. Yeah, that's cool. And graphics and everything. But I'm not really going to watch a screen. I'm going to watch them,
Exactly.
And
you're not paying hundreds of dollars to go watch it on TV.
So I have mixed feelings on the stage because that allows more people to have a front stage look. But that also means there's going to be times when you're on this side of the stage and they're on that side of the stage and you can't see nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
And that was us in Charlotte. We had GA in Charlotte, and we had a nice little spot right off the rail, everything. And, like every 3-4 songs, whatever, the stage rotates. The drums disappear over here. They show back up over there. Now the band's over there. And everybody kind of gravitates towards Lars. So, like, the whole rest of the show, like, you're struggling, even in GA, to see the band. Like, how is it I'm down here, like, right off on the floor, and I'm looking and I don't know where James is when he's singing. And I'm like, from the floor trying to look up and see the monitor, see the screen. Like, what side of the stage is he at? And it was like that, like a whole lot of the show, just being even right there on the floor. I was like, man, GA was the 100 level, 200. I was 200 in Atlanta. I think we were in 212, 211, something like that. But it's just, that stage is just, I can't wait till they finish this tour and hopefully just leave this stage in the rear view, because Columbus was Sonic Temple. That was 2 dates there, and they're on a regular stage. So after doing like 6 shows in this giant round stage or whatever, 6, 7 shows, whatever it was, then to go back to the traditional stage for Columbus, I was like, oh, look at this. Look how awesome this is. I can see everybody at once. I'm not wondering where everything is. My favorite stage is probably the one they had for the Binge and Purge, the 94 run they did.
Yeah.
They had Riser up over it and everything. And that was just a great stage. And they need to go back to something like that, because this one right now, love the band. I get it. Stadium, 70,000 people plus, 75,000 people in Houston or whatever it just was. They're packing it out. Everything's bigger, everything's whatever. But they need to maybe just bring it down just a little notch back to old school.
Yeah, and that stage is good for them, but for the openers that don't have as much going on as far as like pyro and lights and stuff, boy, they look like little ants on that stage.
Yeah. Look, I love Suicidal Tendencies. I made sure to get there early enough to see them every single time. And it's awesome they got to play. They're still playing a stadium, and there's still like a ton of people there. But it's 6 o'clock. They're going on so early, and that stage is so giant. It's, still dying from the sun on the outdoor shows. And, it's totally what you're talking about. They don't have a lot going on with it. They're just on this giant stage. I think even Limp Bizkit all stayed in one spot. Like, so if you're on the other side, you're not really seeing anything. Not that I cared really about seeing Limp Bizkit. I didn't really, just making the observation. And the Pantera show, that was that was what it was too. They at least roamed a lot, so I give them the props. They made their way around the stage.
Yeah. So, which city was your favorite?
Nashville. It's a hometown show. Didn't require travel. We got Leper Messiah. So that's 20 closed up, like 22 years of chasing that song got closed out right here. So the band was great. We had a rain delay one night. It was storming. It was crazy. The first night was like kind of weird. The second night, the band, they were just on fire. The set list was really good. And I say Nashville's probably, which is weird because it's not normally my favorite show of the tour. Every now and again, like they'll throw us a bone at Nashville, but like in the South, we get a lot of like greatest hits set lists. Like if there's a video for the song, they're going to play it. Not a lot of deep cuts come out this region just for whatever reason. You got to go to New York or Chicago to hear Phantom Lord. They're not pulling that out, out here. I'd say Nashville is probably my favorite one, which again, that was really great to have a very low maintenance show. Not have to travel, no airports, no hotels, no miles on the road, just hit the show and come back.
When you go to some of these other cities like Chicago or St. Louis, do you do other things too? You got the family with you, you're traveling.
Oh yeah. So I don't, which is weird because, they do the Metallica takeover thing. I don't even really mess with any of that stuff. I go to the pop-up shops, but all the other stuff and the day off in between, that's our day just to go see the city. So wherever we're at, we spend like the Saturday between dates, we're in St. Louis. Let's see what St. Louis has. Let's go eat somewhere. Let's go, find whatever we're getting into. Try to eat local food. That's, I love to eat. I'm a big boy from the South, so I'm going to go try to find your food. In Chicago, I love it. I love Chicago for the food. Food's so good. You can't go wrong eating in Chicago. St. Louis, we really didn't have a lot of good food. I tried their pizza. People told us to go to Emo's or something. It's supposed to be like
honest, St. Louis sucks, y'all. I'm sorry for my people from St. Louis. And Scour is from St. Louis, so those guys rule. A misery index. Those guys rule. That city sucks. I'm sorry, y'all.
We actually took St. Louis off the tour after this last show. We talked about it as a family and said, "This is the last time we're doing St. Louis. It's done." And look, not knocking you guys that live there.
I am. That city sucks.
Look, hey, I'm a Cubs fan, so I got no love for St. Louis anyway. But yeah, it's not one we're going back to.
Oh, so being a Cubs fan, I don't suppose you got to go see a game while you were there for Metallica, did you?
No, it didn't work out this last time. We're looking at doing Ghost on, I think, August 1st. There's a Cubs game, I believe, at 1:20, and Ghost is in Chicago that night. So we're looking at knocking out that two for that doubleheader.
That's going to be a long day.
It will be, but
you got to do something with your life, like you said.
Such is life, man.
Yeah, awesome, man. So when I saw Metallica, it's been some years since I saw them last, but you're seeing them like in pretty rapid succession. So is there something that you're noticing in between any of these shows? Like, oh, they were hot this time. They were good this time, but they weren't hot like this time. Or maybe this thing happened and they avoided that this time. Like, are you noticing things like that on tour?
Yeah, there's some things. When we were following Death Magnetic, the first thing I noticed was like things are a little formulaic, where they'll come in and it's not as loose as the old days. I don't want to use the word scripted, but it gets to the point where like when you've seen it 10 times on the tour and like James is playing like Nothing Else Matters and he gets up and kicks the stool to play the solo. It's like when you see it the first time, you're like, yeah, look at him. He's like, and you see it the third time, he's like, oh, then every date he stands up the same way and kicks his stool the same way. And it's like, oh, it's not as like impulsive move as we thought the first time. That and some of the between the song banter, it's like through the years, because used to, he would just say random stuff between the songs. It'd just be completely just random stuff. And it's a little samey on M72. You go to one date, they're putting on the same show. So it's almost like a professional version of the Metallica show at this point, where they're making sure every city gets the same experience. He's saying the same stuff here as he's saying here, as he's saying here, which like when you've seen it, I guess as many times as I have, it's like, I don't want to say it comes off as like disingenuous at that point, because that's not what I mean at all. But it's just kind of like, it's a routine. And you see that they're in work mode now. They're bringing the show. They're saying the exact same thing between songs, the same stuff here, the same stuff there. So that's really kind of what I've noticed. Just the older they get, the more kind of, I don't know, maybe they're streamlining it. Maybe they're just trying to keep it all the same. I like to think that they're just trying to provide the same show to every city, so everybody gets everybody gets the experience of this tour. I think that's why the set list hasn't really changed much over the last 3 years. They've, swung a few different songs in and out, but for the most part, if you go, like, Atlanta got pretty much the same show that the international leg got when the tour first started. They swapped out, like, I think Sleepwalk My Life Away never made it to the US. They played that like 5 times and they dropped that, so I didn't get to see that one. But for the most part, that's really what I noticed. It's just not as loose as it used to be, and the show is just more, just as they go, it's just more dialed into the point. They've got all the stuff they do, the tapes they play between the songs and the video screen and stuff, and they take their breaks at the same time and everything. So, that's kind of what I noticed, the takeaway. And the older shows, I'm so happy that I followed when I did, because that, for me, I think the was the Death Magnetic tour, the World Magnetic, whatever. That's going to go down in history as probably the greatest Metallica tour when it's all said and done. Outside Justice,
Wow.
Just from the way they switched the songs, the set list changed every single night. Something crazy. You never know. We heard like Dyer's Eve and Trapped Under Ice one night in the same set with Judas Kiss, My Apocalypse. They were switching out all the rare stuff one night, then you go the next night and it's they're doing like Helpless and No Remorse and just pulling out this crazy stuff that they don't really touch now. So but the band, they're still playing great. They're not missing a beat at all. Lars has actually been really, really good on this tour. People bag on Lars a lot, and he's been great. So I don't have anything remotely negative to say about anything like that. It's just sometimes the formula of it, it's like, oh, here's the spot where this is happening. I guess when they were doing Cunning Stunts, they were blowing up the stage on Enter Sandman every night to night too. So it's not entirely new. They do the same stage show, but that's really, I guess, what I kind of noticed. Just,
that's interesting because I kind of felt like, so I think it was Death Magnetic Tour 2009 when I saw him with Gojira and Lamb of God. They had the casket screens above the stage and there was a lot of pyro, and because of all the moving parts, it felt like they had to be in certain spots at certain times, whereas this past Atlanta show there wasn't so much pyro, and so to me it felt more like an organic concert, like they're just up there playing the songs. So that's interesting to hear from somebody that's seen the whole tour, and you know the spots, whereas I didn't know the spots. So to me it just felt like they were up there winging it.
Yeah, for one show, it's amazing. And that's where I give them the credit, because they're trying to bring that one show to everybody. Because not everybody is like crazy and following the tour. So I give them their props for bringing that one excellent show to everybody. Make sure everybody gets the same experience and everything. But yeah, I'm not in any way bagging it. Like, do their deal. You want to say the same thing, bro, put your show on.
Sometimes you got to. You can't think of something new every single night.
Yeah.
What comes to mind is Cannibal Corpse. So first of all, Corpse Grinder does not talk much in between songs anyway. But when he does, it's the same every single time. When they play I Come Blood, he says the same thing every single time. And it kind of to me seems like pro wrestling. Like, okay, Corpse Grinder's doing his catchphrase now, and we're all supposed to say it along with him,
That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Yeah, it's like seeing Slayer. Every time I see Slayer and they play Die by the Sword, it's the same intro from the 90s to like the last time I saw them. If you're going to live by the sword, then you must also die by the sword.
And everybody does it with him. And that's that part of that communal thing that I want for metal concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go and then you're the only one doing it, and then I'm like, where are y'all at?
Yeah, Atlanta again. Creeping Death. I do again. Your video. We were the only people in our section doing Die or looking around like no one's doing it. It's like, what are we doing here, man? But you know what it is? You saw when they did the poll of how many people was their first Metallica show.
I noticed it seemed like half.
Yeah, it was at least half in Atlanta. So half these people legitimately had no idea what they were doing or what they were getting into. They just showed up to Metallica and were figuring it out. And the other half of us are old, so.
Yeah, and I took for granted too, because you talked about being a kid and wearing out Binge and Purge. I was a kid and I wore out that year and a half in the life of Metallica. Oh, yeah. I had it on VHS and I literally watched it like other kids, like my son, Finding Nemo. He watched that movie, a billion times. Like that was me, but with a year and a half in the life of Metallica.
Yep.
And I literally broke the VHS tape watching that.
Yep. No, that's
So
my Seattle '89. The tracking goes off when you put it in. It's like the video from just all the plays. It's got all the static at the bottom of the screen and everything. I bought it back. I got the DVD release. I'm still waiting on them to do like a big box.
yeah.
Maybe, these reissues, they'll get around and do like a live, live shit box or something and do like all the tours and just make that awesome. Like they're doing all these other big deluxe boxes, but I guess they're not doing Blu-rays in those boxes anyway. So I don't know why.
But so my first Metallica show, because I'd watched so much, I knew what to do. It's like, oh yeah, this is the part where, and
You studied the tape.
yeah, I guess I just took that for granted. No, if now that I'm thinking about it, most people aren't going to do that. That's just a freak like me is going to do something like that.
Yeah, people that are truly dedicated. We're into it. We're there for the show. That's something just gets lost in translation in those giant stadiums. Because I guarantee they played like a smaller club in Atlanta. It would have been just a different vibe.
Yeah,
the vibe is
when I saw him in Phillips Arena. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's still a lot of people. Like, it's 2009. Metallica's still the biggest band on earth. Mm-hmm. But man, 70,000 is a lot.
Yeah, that's what they just did in Houston. And that one, we looked at that one for a minute, but it was on the wife's birthday, and she vetoed going to Metallica in Texas on her birthday. I Metallica'd her out kind of on all these shows. So, and she's in it to win it. She's seen 39 shows herself.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got to see. My daughter is 19 and about to be 19, I guess. She's seen him 10 times. My son is 11. He's seen him 8 times. And the wife, yes, 39 times. So
that is such a blessing, man. You get to live this life with your family like that and share these experiences. I love hearing stuff like that.
Yeah, we're going to try to go international for my number 50. So unless I impulsively do something for the rest of this year, the 2026 dates are all overseas. So I'm looking at Greece. I'm looking at London. I'm like Romania, like Switzerland. What are we doing here? I just got to pick one, knock 50 out in style somewhere overseas. Cause I've never done international for Metallica. Everything's in the States, and I've crisscrossed. I've done everything in the US, California, New York, Chicago, all the way down to Florida, everywhere in between. But it's time to go international for number 50. So that's the plan.
Yeah, I would Europe or South America. They just seem to be on fire for metal. And I want to go to one of those festivals so bad.
Brazil, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, that's a goal, man. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. I really appreciate it. It kind of makes me want to go listen to Metallica right now. It's like reigniting that old childhood passion, man. So thanks a lot, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, brother.